Yay, let's do this. I reckon we should be alright this time, he said. I hope so. Um, right. We may have noticed, those of you who were with us on Friday, didn't work on Friday, did it? Oh no. I realised once we'd finished, the main problem was the internet in our street, I think. My wife pointed out to me straight away there was a BT OpenReach van outside our house, and yeah, I think there was a problem with the internet on our street, which is why it failed. So hopefully this will all be fine. Oh, yo, and you can hear me. Oh, the hearing thing was something slightly weirder. Um, it was all fine when I was up here. When I went downstairs to try and get a better signal, for some reason it killed my internal mic, and this wasn't just a sort of me being stupid thing. It just muted the internal mic, but nothing else. It was really weird. So I don't fully understand what went wrong there. I restarted it and it still didn't work. But anyway, I don't use an internal mic for this, so fingers crossed. Good morning, Miss Tompkins. Good morning, Damon. Good morning, everyone. I haven't had chances. Right. Hello to already. Okay, and Inspector Calls. I've put a context video up already on this, on the politics. I say in it there'll be 2 videos, and I've nearly finished the other one, so I'll probably get that up today. And I'll aim to get a 3rd one, because I lied when I said there were 2. I ended up turning it into 3. There's a lot of context to an Inspector Calls. I'm going to give a very quick, rough run through it, because I want to get cracking on the plays and, well, crack these little babies out. So, because I don't know how that's going to work. So basically, this is a political play. Priestley is trying to send us a message here. Political thinking that there are different classes. So the upper class, who are born into wealth, if you like, the Queen's right at the top of that, but also other people who, over a long time, their family has gained a name, if you like. So, you know, lords and ladies, people who are living in stately homes like Erddig Hall down the road to Squire York lived there. The sort of traditional ruling classes. They are the upper class. Working class, so you have 3 levels, upper class at the top. At the bottom, working class would generally be someone whose job doesn't depend on their skills. Yeah? Oh, good to see this. Oh, right. The books have turned up as well. Nice one. So the working class, the idea is that they are people who don't need their skills necessarily to have their job. So you might be unskilled work, if you like. And then in the middle class, okay, you could simplistically say it's everyone else. A better definition would be probably someone who needs some skills in their job, or who have been successful and made money. Now, this is a very broad definition, isn't it? I'm middle class because I have to get a qualification to become a teacher. But then, by the same token, all right, let's take Alan Sugar. Oh, by the way, this class system thing is only a concept. I mean, I think that a lot of things work this way, but okay, let's just give you the example. Alan Sugar, clearly born working class, scrambled around a lot, didn't get a massive education, started his own businesses up from his own initiative, and fought his way up and made himself at first middle class because he made lots of money, and then as he's now made a hell of a lot of money, wow, would you say he's upper middle class? He's certainly not born into wealth, but then he was made a peer, a lord, so you could argue, has he crept into the upper classes? I suspect not. Now, to sensible thinking people, we don't care about that, but not everyone's sensible. And Priestley is making a strong point here. Priestley's play, the whole point of it is that the upper classes look down on the lower classes, treating them badly. He's also looking at snobbery and selfishness, and it all feels quite relevant in today's rather bizarre atmosphere, doesn't it? The importance of community, all looking after each other, everyone supporting each other against people being selfish. So that's the purpose, the point of this play. One final point on it then, to quickly introduce some characters, because I think probably it's wise to do that, because it's a play, like I've said already. Hi Alfie, I'm a bit nervous, not nervous, I'm curious how well this will work, because I've never read this out loud, obviously, because pupils read all the parts. Some stars of previous performances are actually watching today, and they'll be giving me notes, no doubt. So what I've done is I've designed toilet rolls for each character. So you've got the inspector there. Oops-a-daisy. Mr. and Mrs. Burling are there. So I think what I'll do is I'll read all the parts. Obviously, I think I'll have to. I did think of other ideas, but I don't think they quite work. But rather than just say Mrs. Burling or whoever, I think I'll hold up the toilet roll to illustrate it. Does that make sense? I welcome feedback on how well this works or doesn't work. Okie dokie. Shall we get cracking? Yeah! I'm over enthusiastic. Now, there's a long description at the start of this. Hi, Dominica. There's a long description at the start of this. I don't know if I will go through it, should I? No, it's sort of interesting to have a look at. So in your text, you should have a look at it. Priestley very detailed in setting the tone. He wants us to be spot on. Basically, it's a posh dining room in a big, fancy house. It says it belongs to a fairly prosperous manufacturer. Burling, to introduce those characters, is a man like Alan Sugar who has worked himself up. And it's very important to him, this idea of class. He wants to be accepted as upper class. He wants to be seen as someone who's one of the big guys in his local society. But he comes from humble beginnings. He's made his own money. And the snobby upper class would say, that's not, you're not on our level. You know, people would talk about people being nouveau riche. You've made newly rich. You've made your own money, but you got no class. You're not upper class. He's desperate to be accepted. So he's married Mrs. Burling. She is upper class, so he's clearly married her partly to try and raise himself up a bit. He's sent his kids to posh schools and posh university, and now this party here that they're having in his big posh show-off house is an engagement party, because his daughter Sheila is marrying Gerald Croft, who is also more upper class, higher class than him. So you see how it's all social climbing, trying to get a bit higher up. Burling marries a posher woman. His daughter's marrying a posher man. Do you see all these things? You see more of it. So it says, at the rise of the curtain, the four Burlings, they've got two kids, and Gerald are seated at the table with Arthur Burling at one end, his wife at the other. So we describe a little bit of this. Edna, who's the parlour maid, their servant, is serving the table. Okay, they've just finished their meal. She's clearing up the dessert plates and champagne bottles because they're all celebrating, and now they're getting poured. Watch out for sexism. This is set in 1912. So, oh, sorry, Miss Tompkins. Is that any better? I could go further, but I don't want to damage your speakers. Give you a moment to reply, and I'll just go through a little bit more of this. It describes the characters. They're all in fancy sort of clothing, the men in dinner jackets, the women in evening dresses. Mr. Burling's a heavy-looking, rather portentous man in his middle 50s, with fairly easy manners, but rather provincial in his speech, so he looks sort of impressive. He thinks of himself as being impressive, but you can tell he's not utterly posh, if you like. His wife is about 50. Oh, he's imagining being older. Oh, yeah, I'll crank her up a little more for you. Hang on. Boop, boop. Boop, 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 boop. Boop. Close to capacity now, I think. Mrs. Burling, oh, she's a dreadful old bag. Do not use the word bag in the GCSE, but by all means, I'll bandy it around. I'll say worse about her. She's a rather cold woman, and her husband's social superiors. Like I said, she's posher than him. Sheila is a pretty girl. I think I've made her toilet roll look a bit too modern myself, but anyway. Sheila's a pretty girl in her early 20s, very pleased with life, rather excited. Ooh, she's getting engaged. Gerald Croft's an attractive man, about 30. He's an easy, well-bred young man about town, so he's the guy who's getting engaged to her. Eric, here he is, bless him. He's in his middle 20s. He's not quite at ease. He's half shy, half assertive, so he's a bit uncomfortable with himself. So they're having a good dinner, celebrating a special occasion. Let's get cracking. Sorry about the long introduction. I think it has to be this way for a play. Let's get moving. So, Yeah, this is odd. This is how it goes. Thank you, Edna. That's right. He pushes the port towards Eric. Eric crosses to the sideboard. You ought to like this port, Gerald. As a matter of fact, Finchley assured me it's exactly the same port your father gets from him. This is too slow. Then it'll be all right. The governor prides himself on being a good judge of port. I don't pretend to know much about it. Edna crosses down to the table, and Sheila's saying, "Oh, I should jolly well think so, Gerald. I'd hate you to know all about port, like one of those purple-faced old men." Yeah, I'm not a purple-faced old man. No, not yet. But then you don't know all about port, do you? Sneaky dig at him not being posh. Now then, Sybil, you must take a little tonight. Special occasion, you know, eh? Yes, go on, Mummy. You must drink our health. Very well, then. Just a little, thank you. And then she says to Edna, "All right, Edna. I'll ring from the drawing room when we want coffee. Probably in about half an hour." Oh, Edna, one of Edna's 4 lines. All this drawing for so little. Yes, ma'am. And Edna goes out. They now have all the glasses filled. Burling beams at them and clearly relaxes. Wrong one. Well, well. This is very nice, very nice. Good dinner too, Sybil. Tell cook from me. Absolutely first class. Arthur, you're not supposed to say such things. Straight away you see, don't you, the sort of class system thing? You know? Sheila making a little bit of a joke at Burling not being classy enough to appreciate port properly. Mrs. Burling giving the whole, "Oh, you shouldn't brag about your own meals, it's not very classy." Oh, come. I'm treating Gerald like one of the family, and I'm sure he won't object. Go on, Gerald, you just object. Wouldn't dream of it. In fact, I insist upon being one of the family now. I've been trying long enough, haven't I? Sheila doesn't reply, so he says with more insistence, "Haven't I? You know I have." Of course she does. Yes, except for all last summer, when you never came near me and I wondered what had happened to you. It wasn't very posh. What happened to you? And I've told you, I was awfully busy at the works all that time. Yes, that's what you say. Okay, I'm stopping for a sec. Firstly, feedback. Does this work? I'm not totally sure. We're starting to get to something here. Interesting point. So Sheila's getting engaged to Gerald, and all seems lovely and perfect, doesn't it? Yeah, they're all so happy. But that was a little hint of something wrong, wasn't it? They're teasing each other a little bit, and then Sheila says, "Oh, last summer, when you never came near me, I wondered what had happened to you." And he says, "Oh, I told you I was busy at the works at the factory." And she says, "Yeah, that's what you say." And it Priestley says she's half serious, half playful. So this is a bit of a passive-aggressive thing, this, isn't it? She's making it sound like she's joking, but she's making a point here. Where were you last summer? So, okay, that's just a tiny little thing to wonder about, yeah? Now, here's something interesting. Mrs. Burling telling Sheila off for teasing Gerald, you know, it's like, men. Thank you, Dylan. It's hilarious but amazing. That's pretty much what I was aiming for, mate, to be honest. I gotta be honest, I thought it would feel weird doing this. It feels much weirder than I thought it would. But I think when I get the swing of things, I just hope it's getting across to you all right, eh? The voices, Dylan. Well, like I said, Ewan is a very posh Gerald, and I'm trying to live up to him. And Alfie is a legend as well. I keep forgetting the voices. I've got to try and focus on them. Oh God! Right, sorry. Mrs. Burling is going to give it some. Don't mock Gerald, sort of thing. Watch out for this sexism. It's quite sexist, this family. You'll see another example in a moment. And also this sort of, oh, Gerald's important to us. I know he's a guest in the house, but, you know, don't tease him. You know? Okay. Mrs. Burling, it's your time to shine. I really can't draw old women. I've learned this from... Look at the original version. I mean, dear God. They dug up Stan Laurel to make that. Look him up on Google. And it'll put a picture in your head you'll never ditch. So Mrs. Burling sticking up for Gerald here when he disappeared in the summer. Now, Sheila, don't tease him. When you're married, you'll realise that men with important work to do sometimes have to spend nearly all their time and energy on their business. You'll have to get used to that, just as I had. Isn't that so, Arthur? Quite. I don't believe I will. So you be careful, she said again, in that half-joking, half-serious voice. Oh, I will. And Eric suddenly guffaws. I always like this bit in the play when characters do something daft like that and you think, will the pupil go for it? We had a good lot this time. So he suddenly guffaws. Some for no reason, like mad laughter. Thank you, Dominica. Sophie, I tell you what, I've been working on Mrs. Burling voice. I wanted to do this for years. So Eric suddenly explodes in inappropriate laughter for no reason, gets up and goes to the fireplace, and his parents are looking at him. And now Sheila's not amused. She's like, you know, we're having this lovely party about me, and then, what's going on with him? Awkward younger brother. Now, what's the joke? I don't know. I just suddenly felt I had to laugh. You're squiffy. Yeah, drunk. I'm not. What an expression, Sheila. Really, the things you girls pick up on these days. If you think that's the best she can do, don't be an ass, Eric. Now stop it, you two. Arthur, what about this famous toast of yours? Okay, so, Mr. Burling. Here we go. Now, this is the first of many. I always feel bad for pupils, and in fact, pupils who've done this with me. You might notice I don't try to interrupt pupils. I don't mind interrupting myself. I don't tend to interrupt pupils, but I do sometimes during a long speech, because it'd be quite hard work to sit in class and plough through a long speech. So, Burling loves long speeches. Absolutely loves it. He likes showing off. He's a pompous man. So he gets up, he wants to make his toast, his speech, toasting their health. A toast when you say, good luck, cheers, with the champagne. Right. Yes, of course. He gets up, stands up, everyone's got to be quiet, clears his throat. Well, Gerald, I know you agreed that we should only have this quiet little family party. It's a pity Sir George and Lady Croft can't be with us, but they're abroad and so it can't be helped. As I told you, they sent me a very nice cable. Couldn't be nicer. I'm not sorry that we're celebrating quietly like this. Much nicer, really. I quite agree. So do I, but it makes speech-making more difficult. Well, don't do any. What? Don't do any. Oh, yes, I will. This is one of the happiest nights of my life. And one day, I hope, Eric, when you've a daughter of your own, you'll understand why. Gerald, I'm going to tell you frankly, without any pretences, that your engagement to Sheila means a tremendous lot to me. She'll make you happy. I'm sure you'll make her happy. You're just the kind of son-in-law I've always wanted. Your father and I have been friendly rivals in business for some time now, though Crofts Limited are both older and bigger than Burling and Company. Now you've brought us together, and perhaps we may look forward to the time when Crofts and Burlings are no longer competing, but are working together, for lower costs and higher prices. Hear, hear. And I think my father would agree to that too. Now, Arthur, I don't think you ought to talk business on an occasion like this. Neither do I. Sorry. Neither do I. Can't find the line. Where is it? What's that? All wrong. Quite so. I agree with you. I only mentioned it in passing. What I did want to say was that Sheila's a lucky girl. And Gerald, I know Whoa. I've lost me. Sorry, I skipped a line. Oh, I'm too busy thinking of toilet rolls. Right. What I did want to say was that Cheryl's a lucky girl. Cheryl? And Gerald, I think you're a pretty fortunate young man too. I know I am. Just this once, anyhow. So he gets up and raises his glass. So here's wishing the pair of you the very best that life can bring. Gerald and Sheila. All the best. Yes, Gerald. All the best. She's got a nasty temper sometimes, but she's not bad, really. Good old Sheila. Yes, Sheila. Okay, I've got myself confused here. Yes, Sheila, darling. And she gets up, as does Eric. Oh, congratulations and very best wishes. Thank you. They all sit down. Sorry, got a bit mixed up in my toilet rolls there. I don't mind when they're talking for a long time, but when they all say something quick, I get confused. Alright, firstly, I've been itching to say this. When Lord and Lady Croft, ooh, they're posh, said they couldn't get there, but they sent Mr. Burling a very nice cable. So that's a telegram, which is the sort of the first version of a text or a message, a direct message. It would be a short thing, which would be, you would have to dictate it over the phone. It would be basically typed out and delivered to your house. So that's a telegraph. And when he says we had a very nice cable brought to us, I like the idea that it's some sort of like, fancy USB lightning connector deal, but it's not. And so Burling getting up and saying, look at this. I mean, it's so romantic, isn't it? He says, it's a fantastic marriage, this. I'm so happy because you're in a company that does the same as us. And now we're coming together. And hopefully it can make our businesses even stronger. Oh, the romance. Stop me. It's beautiful. God. He's a bit obvious, isn't he? He says that hopefully, if we get together, we'll be able to have lower costs and higher prices. This is what's called a monopoly, where one company or a group of, where a group of companies, it could be one, have control of a certain type of manufacturing. We don't know what these factories make, but clearly it's the same thing. So if they work together, they then have control of that market, which means that they can bring the costs down. If they both say, oh, we're only paying so much for the stuff we bring in, then the people selling materials to them will have to pay that price, and keep wages down as well. Yeah, so wages are cost. Well, if you want to work in their factories and both factories are paying poor wages, tough. Can you see the political element here? Priestley making the point for the first time. These people are rich and want to get richer and richer and richer, and so they want to pay less and less to the poor because then they'll get richer. Who cares that society is suffering as long as they get big fat wads of cash in their pockets? Yeah? Miss Tompkins, perhaps they make toilet roll. I like this. That could be quite what a possibility. That's brilliant. So it's a bit of a fix, isn't it? Yeah? And also they can put the prices up. If everyone makes the same product and agrees, they can raise prices, charge whatever they want if people need it, if it's an essential item. Have we seen this happen in lockdown? Have we seen certain essential items prices go up because basically all the manufacturers are thinking the same thing? We can push the price up here. If one manufacturer charges less, then that whole plan falls apart. So they all charge more. Does that make sense? I believe this is correct, although I also think it might be slightly exaggerated. So take this, it's basically right, I think, but take it with a pinch of salt. There's this famous story that when they've invented light bulbs, in the 1920s, there were only 4 manufacturers of light bulbs in America, and they got together and they agreed to make the light bulbs with lower quality metal filaments, I believe, in the bulbs. I've seen to recall someone in year 10 correcting me on the part of this, so if one of you guys, let me know. Because if you made it with stronger metal, they'd last for ages. But if you made them with cheaper metal, they'll burn out, and then people have to buy new light bulbs. Now, if one of those companies made better quality light bulbs, everyone would buy theirs, and the others would go out of business. So they all agreed. So that's a monopoly, which is not, strictly speaking, legal under European law. A group of companies getting together to raise the prices and screw over the customer, basically. Anyway, sorry, let's get back to this. So they've toasted them Eric with this sort of insulting compliment because, of course, bless him, he's a bit awkward, isn't he? So when he has to give a compliment in public to his sister, it has to be wrapped in an insult, doesn't he? She's got a nasty temper sometimes, but she's not bad, really. Yeah. Right, so where are we? You chump, I can't drink to this, can I? When do I drink? You can drink to me. Now she's serious now. All right then, I drink to you. She gets up and for a moment they look at each other. That felt weird. Thank you. And I drink to you and hope I can make you as happy as you deserve to be. You be careful or I'll start weeping. Well, perhaps this will help to stop it. And he produces a ring case. Ooh, it's not a ring case, is it? Oh my gosh, Sheila's excited now. Oh, Gerald, you've got it. Is it the one you wanted me to have? Yes, the very one. Oh, it's wonderful, she looks at it. Look, Mummy, she crosses to Mrs. Burling. Isn't it a beauty? Oh, darling, she crosses over and kisses Gerald. Oh, kisses Gerald. First time we've been able to have this actually acted out in a lesson. How does your wheel in there? Ouch. Eric's awkward, of course. Steady, old girl. Steady the buffs. He's like embarrassed he's got to say something. And now she's put the ring on admiringly. I think it's perfect. Now I feel engaged. So you ought, darling. It's a lovely ring. Be careful with it. Careful? I'll never let it out of my sight for an instant. Look, Eric. Well, it came just at the right moment. That was very clever of you, Gerald. Now, Arthur, if you've no more to say, I think Sheila and I had better go into the drawing room and leave you men. She and Gerald rise. I just want to say this. Oh, don't you just love it? Isn't this party about their daughter? No, it's not about their daughter. Burling wants to grandstand. I am the big man, and it's a big moment, so I want to make big speeches. What a jerk. So Sheila's there all excited with her ring, but he hasn't finished his speech yet, has he? He wants to say stuff. So he said, I just want to say this. Gerald and Mrs. Burling sit down. And get this. Burling, what a twist, I swore then, noticing that Sheila is still admiring her ring, says, are you listening, Sheila? This concerns you too. Oh, it's her engagement party. She's excited about her engagement ring, but Daddy is all about me, really. I want to make my big speech. Are you paying attention, young lady? Oh my gosh, what an idiot. So, I'm sorry, Daddy. Actually, I was listening. And she goes and sits down, looks attentive as they all do. Eric sits down. So everyone is watching, and he holds them for a moment before continuing, trying to cross his legs through the speech. Don't remember that direction. This might be a weird version I can't forget. So he just holds them for a sec. He's so full of his own importance. I will be quiet for a moment and wait for me to speak. Good technique is it for a teacher. Weird technique for a father to his family, I would argue. He's full of himself, isn't he? So here we go, another speech. This is a speech that comes up a lot in GCSEs. You need to know this speech well. Don't have to memorise it, but understand it. I'm delighted about this engagement and hope it won't be too long before you're married. I don't want to say this. There's a good deal of silly talk about these days, but... and I speak as a hard-headed businessman who has to take risks and knows what he's about. I say you can ignore all this silly pessimistic talk. When you marry, you'll be married at a very good time. Yeah, a very good time. And soon, it'll be an even better time. I believe you're right, sir. What about war? What? Don't interrupt, Eric. I was coming to that. Just because the Kaiser makes a speech or two, or a few German officers have too much to drink and begin talking nonsense, you'll hear some people say that war's inevitable. And to that I say, fiddlesticks. The Germans don't want war. Nobody wants war, except some half-civilized folks in the Balkans. And why? There's too much at stake these days, everything to lose and nothing to gain by war. I need to point out to you, J.B. Priestley has set this play in 1912, but he wrote it in 1940. So, he's writing it in 1940. He knows what's going to happen between 1912 and 1940. So Burling's all about that. Some people are pessimistically talking about war. What nonsense, because there'll be no war. You've chosen a good time to get married, and soon it'll be an even better time. And I know, because I'm a hard-headed businessman, yeah? He knows everything. It is like quite Alan Sugar, isn't it? I know everything because I've been successful, so I can just lecture you, tell you how it's going to be. He says the Kaiser's been making speeches. In those days, Germany had a king, the Kaiser. And so Germany's been making aggressive sounds, but he says, apart from a few people in the Balkans who are half civilized anyway, so that's down where Croatia, Serbia is, and that's where the First World War is triggered eventually. Nobody wants war. There's too much at stake. Now, this is Priestley making a fool of him, isn't it? Because Priestley knows that 2 years after this, 1914, the First World War will start. And then after that, there will be the Second World War. Remember, Priestley writing it in 1940, that's during the Blitz, the point of the war when Britain is affected the most, when London, Coventry and Liverpool and cities like that are bombed constantly. So Priestley is deliberately making Burling look like a fool because he's putting all these optimistic words in his mouth, and he's all completely wrong, isn't he? Okay. Eric, sensibly, tries to argue. Yeah, yes, I know, but still... Just let me finish, Eric. You've a lot to learn yet. And I'm talking, again, as a hard-headed, practical man of business. And I say there isn't a chance of war. The world's developing so fast it'll make war impossible. Look at the progress we're making. In a year or two, we'll have aeroplanes that'll be able to go anywhere. And look at the way the automobile's making headway. Bigger and faster all the time. And then ships. Why, a friend of mine went over this new liner last week. 46,800 tons. 46,800 tons! New York in 5 days. And every luxury in. Unsinkable. Absolutely unsinkable. That's what you got to keep your eye on. Facts like that. Progress like that. And not a few German officers talking nonsense. And a few scaremongers here making a fuss about nothing. Now, you three young people, listen to this and remember what I'm telling you now. In 20 or 30 years' time, let's say in the 40s, you may be giving a little party like this. Your son or daughter might be getting engaged, and I tell you, by that time you'll be living in a world that'll have forgotten all these capital versus labour agitations and all these silly little war scares. There'll be peace and prosperity and rapid progress everywhere, except for in Russia, which will always be behindhand, naturally. I think I might have this version I found might be slightly altered in that in the usual version it names the ship. What is this miracle unsinkable ship? Oh, it's the Titanic, isn't it? So he's, again, Priestley making him look like a fool by making him say, oh, yeah, I've seen this amazing ship. That's right, Miss Tompkins, the Titanic is 1912, yeah. And quite right as well, Sophie. Burling's pompous and he's a fool, absolutely 100%. He's an idiot. And Priestley's making sure we know that right from the start, yeah? So the Titanic sinks in 1912. The year this is set, but his mate's been to have a look at it before it sails and is saying it's amazing. And it did say at the time it was unsinkable. It was an amazing ship, except as a ship, shall we say. Although, to be fair to the Titanic, if they'd actually spotted the iceberg, maybe they didn't design it for that happening. The best car in the world, we drive her into a wall. It's probably not going to be in the same state, is it? Let's be frank. So there's not going to be any war, he says. The Titanic's unsinkable. Progress will be made. Technology will move on so quickly, it'll be amazing. They've got planes that can go anywhere. Yeah, but that development of those will be to drop bombs. In those days, they're sort of fighter planes, basic little planes that couldn't go a great distance. Well, even that, not even that, really. But, I'll stop contradicting myself. But bombers weren't invented in those days. So, jet planes, certainly. In fact, jet engines really were developed by the Nazis for rockets, to be honest. Right, okay, let's crack on, because I just started distracting myself there. He says Russia will always be behindhand, he says. But he also says that by the 40s, you'll be given a party like this for your son and daughter's engagement, living in a world that will have forgotten about all these war scares and capital versus labour agitations. So isn't that ironic? Yeah? 1940s, you'll be doing this, and it'll all be amazing, and everyone forgotten about all these problems. Yeah? And Liam, we studied this together, I think, in St. Joseph's. Oh, good to see you, comma. That was unnecessary. Yeah, exactly. So he's warning us, isn't he? Priestley calling back to us, saying, be careful, be careful. Because this ironic thing in the 40s, it won't be all perfect and amazing. It'll be the opposite, won't it? It'll be that they'll be in the middle of the Blitz. Priestley doesn't know how the Blitz will work out. This could be the end of civilization, but he's there saying, oh, yeah, it'll all be fantastic by then. Right, I'll read just a tiny bit more, and I'll let you get on with your lives. Mrs. Burling interrupts him. Don't interrupt Burling when he's making a speech. Yes, dear, I know. Yes, my dear, I know, I'm talking too much, but we can't let these Bernard Shaws and H.G. Wellses do all the talking. We hard-headed, practical businessmen must say something sometime. And we don't guess, we've had experience, and we know. So, yeah, I'm experienced, hard-headed man of business. So I know, yeah? Don't listen to intelligent people. This feels similar to recent political arguments. I know, just follow me. He said about capital and labour arguments being forgotten. Well, that's the idea that capital is them, the rich, making money, labour is the workers. So he said those arguments will be forgotten because, we'll have won, won't we? The rich will be making more and more money, and we'll just carry on being successful. He talks about don't let these Bernard Shaws and H.G. Wellses do all the talking. So two great writers, George Bernard Shaw and H.G. Wells, with very similar political attitudes to Priestley. So those three were all at the same time arguing these socialist ideas that community is what's important, not the wealth of individuals, and that these arrogant characters like Burling should be thinking about everyone and stop just thinking about themselves. That probably feels like the point where I should stop, because then while the sexist thing happens, I did warn you there'd be sexism in this, after dinner the genders will split. So the gentlemen will stay in a dining room drinking port, so strong wine, smoking fine cigars, and the women will go off into a different room where, I don't know, they'll do what ladies would do, knit or chat about unimportant things while the men are talking about business and important things. Not my words, although I suppose they were, weren't they? But that's the sort of attitude of the time. Okay? All right. I'll leave it there. Be back 10:30 tomorrow. I hope that the bog roll thing works. I think it sort of did. I think I need to write the names more clearly on the back so I don't fumble around with them. But I kind of think that works. I hope so. I'll leave, as always, the end screen going for about 10 minutes so that if you want to put any feedback or ask any questions or make any points, you can do, and we can discuss any points and questions next time. Or if you've got any suggestions for how I could do this better or what worked or didn't work, please do so. My Eric Gerald voices are too similar. I think my Sheila and Mrs. Burling's are in danger of slipping into each other. Got to work on that. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much, Ross. That's good to hear. Well, I'll keep trying it anyway. Okay, so adios, muchachos. Hasta la vista. See you tomorrow at Las Diez Media. Oh, I forgot my Spanish. Heartbreaking. I'm gutted. What on earth am I talking about?